Hello everyone and welcome to a wonderful game from round 4 of this year's Superbet Chess Classic Tournament. It is Maxime Vachier-Lagrave versus world classical champion Gukesh Domaraju. MBL had a bit of a interesting start to the tournament. He has a loss, a draw, and a win. He drew, I don't know who he drew, but he defeated Alireza and he lost to Alireza in round 1, and then he immediately bounced back with a win against Wesley So, and he got a draw in round 3. And Gukesh, 3 draws so far. So let's check it out. It's a short game, but I'm pretty sure you guys will enjoy it as it features some fancy moves and also one, I don't know, I wouldn't say particularly difficult pause the video moment, but then again, you know, I've been wrong before. So MBL with white opens with pawn to e4. Gukesh strikes with pawn to e5. We have knight f3, knight to c6, and not bishop to c4, not bishop to c5, bishop to b5, but d4. MBL challenges Gukesh to the Scotch game, and it's always nice when we have this because, well, it's very rare nowadays at this level. E captures on d4, this is the main reply, knight captures on d4, and the bishop to c5. And you have 3 main replies basically to the to this bishop to c5 move. Bishop to e3, by far the most popular, knight captures on c6, second most popular, the so-called throbbing variation, and also knight to back to b3. This is the third most popular, and this is what MBL plays. So he wants to mix it up a little bit. Bishop to b6 and knight to c3. We have queen to f6. Knight to f6 is a bit more common. Gukesh wants to activate the queen right away. Now, if you activate the light square bishop, queen g6 can be used to go after that g2 pawn in some lines. We have queen to e2, played pretty much instantly. Not instantly, but 3 minutes. I guess that could be instantly for a classical game. Knight g to e7 and bishop to e3. And we have castles by both players. Gukesh castles king side and MBL castles queen side. We have pawn to d6, and now king to b1 is definitely a move you could expect in a position like this. You play king b1, f3, you go after the black king, you know, something we've seen many times. But MBL goes queen to d2. And it's sort of weird because it kind of, you know, asks, will you just capture on e3 and, well, then queen to d2 will basically be a loss of a tempo. But Gukesh doesn't do it. He just goes bishop to e6, and now there is a game where pawn to f4 was played. MBL plays bishop to b5, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. We have queen to g6, the bishop has been developed, so of course he wants to grab the g2 pawn, and MBL says, have at it, you know, capture on g2. And interestingly, Gukesh does not spend a lot of time. He spent 3 minutes on this, and he declines the pawn. Capturing the pawn is by far the best black has. You know, it looks dangerous because after, what do you do after rook d to g1? And rook d to g1 isn't even the top engine move or the second top or the third move. It's just the move that, you know, when I see queen g2, my barbarian brain is saying go rook d g1. What is black to do here? Well, you can just move the queen. And there's no rook g3 and doubling on the g file as the rook on h1 would hang. And if something like, let's say, bishop captures, you'll play pawn captures and queen h6, also looks very dangerous. Not really, just knight g6, and you don't have time for h5 as the queen on h6 is hanging. So, yeah, queen captures on g2, definitely the best. But Gukesh plays pawn to f5, already a little bit dangerous. He opens up the path towards his king. Pawn to h5, MBL says, alright, I've already seen this in this tournament. The alpha 0 pawn must be pushed forward. Queen to f7 and now pawn to h6. We have g6 and bishop to g5 fighting for those dark squares. Pawn to a6 attacking the bishop, and the bishop captures on c6. We have knight captures and now knight to d5. And it's an interesting position. What would you play here now with black? The knight here is far too dangerous, and also you just don't want to have this tension of knight coming to f6, of knight captures on b6. So the knight on d5 should be eliminated at all cost, and that is what Gukesh does. We have captures, knight to e5, and now rook to h4. Beautiful rook lived by MBL. Rook f to e8, and now pawn to f3. We have bishop to a7. Not really clear on what Gukesh is trying to achieve here, but after king to b1, we sort of get the idea. He plays bishop back to b6, and basically he's saying, I like where my pieces are, I'm, gonna repeat moves, and maybe, if you give me something, I want to continue, but so far, I like where my pieces are. And then MVL says, yes, we will not be playing this for a draw. He goes knight to a5, puts pressure on b7, and you could play rook 8 to b8. That's definitely possible, but that would, looks like a very, very passive rook. Definitely not a rook a world champion would want to have. So here, Gukesh goes for the active pawn to c5, and he gets in trouble. But it's not easy to see why. MVL plays d captures on c6 en passant, b captures on c6, and now what's the problem? Feel free to pause the video here and find the only winning maneuver for MVL while I give you a couple of seconds. So when I say winning, I mean, garnering enough advantage to play for a win, because you will have a winning position, but you still will have to grind very hard. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to c3. Not easy to see why. Of course, you couldn't capture as the knight here would hang. So now you're just defending the knight, and you're threatening to capture on d6, but you're also threatening to capture on c6. And there's just no defense against all of these threats. You could play bishop captures on a5, sure, but after queen captures on a5, still not the best position, and the absence of the dark square bishop will definitely be felt on those dark square weaknesses. Plus, like I said, the d6 pawn is still hanging. You could defend it, queen to d7, again queen to c3, and just very, very annoying to defend for black. You will bring the other rook into the game, and it's just objectively very, very, very bad position for black. So the other thing, after queen to c3, you could, okay, not capture. Let's say you just tried defending, queen to c7. We defend this, and also we put more pressure on the knight. So now we're definitely threatening to capture it. Now the problem is knight c4. And after knight captures on c4, let's say rook captures on c4, there's the threat of rook captures on c6. And after c5, this is also possible, but then b4, and again, you run into trouble. And if c5, now rook a4, and whatever you play, let's say you go rook to e6, because this will become very weak, queen to c4. Now attacks the rook, attacks the a6 pawn will fall, and you will get defeated. That's there's no way out of this. So like I said, it's not, a move that ends the game on the spot, but you will gain enough advantage to play for a win, and win over the course of the next 30 to 50 moves. That is what I mean. So Gukesh tried bishop to c5, but it runs into similar fate with rook to a4, and after queen to c7, now defending here, we have pawn to a3, preparing pawn to b4, rook to a7, and now bishop to f4, trying to pile up on that d6 pawn. We have queen to b6 and knight to b3. We have pawn to a5, trying to give up the a5 pawn to maybe, get his pieces back into the game. But now MVL just goes for knight captures on c5. Queen captures, we have queen captures on c5, d captures on c1, on c5, and, well, I'm pretty sure you guys see the easiest way to win the game. But just in case you don't, have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. The move is rook to e1. That is the move, and of course, I mean, it's pretty easy to see why. The rook is undefended, the knight is now attacked twice, and there's no defense. You could play rook to e7, sure, that is a possibility, but then you give up the a5 pawn, and you either remain like this for the rest of the game, or you unpin, offer some trades, and then we trade once. Let's say captures. You play rook a6, you also attack this pawn. Let's say you defend this pawn. You're gonna go rook a7, you're gonna attack the knight, and after knight f6, something like rook g7 check, king to h8, and bishop to g5. Not a lot black can do here. You're always in trouble of losing material. If you lose control over the f6 square, you will have to play something like this. You go after the rook to d7. But if you leave the control of f6 to white, then you just lose the game on the spot. The king can never enter the game. The rook really not all that much to do. If you move it away from the e file, rook d8 will just win the game. And while black is suffering, white will just elegantly advance the a pawn and win the game. So there's really nothing you can do here. And after rook e1, of course, Gukesh saw that he can defend the knight, but there's really no point in continuing the game. So yeah, 3 draws for Gukesh, but he suffers his first loss at the hands of MVL, and we're going to check out one more game from round 4, and then we are going to check out the standings after 4 rounds have been played. So yeah, beautiful stuff by MVL, taking down the world champion. He's the first one to do so in this tournament, and Gukesh has yet to win a single game in the event. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Once again, big congratulations if you found both pause the video ideas. I would like to thank E1 Check, Only Bullet, Random Pawn, Douglas van Bandhuizen, and Samuel Kamuli for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.